Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking. Please remember to subscribe, share and comment. Now, what matters the most is the processor. The processor of a laptop is the most it is one of the greatest factors that you should consider before you decide what kind of a laptop you're buying. Now, why am I talking about the processor? The processor is going to actually give you the performance of your laptop. Now, people, whenever those guys who don't have a lot of information on these machines, they will look at the size of the hard disk, and I've received a lot of people asking me, I want the hard disk, the first thing they come up with. They say that I want a bigger size, but actually the size of the hard disk does not matter. What matters the most is the processor. Now, we have different types of processors. Actually, the latest type of processors are the ones that we refer to them as the cores. Now, the cores have better performance compared to other processors, earlier processors which had been released. If you compare, we have a processor like Pentium, we have Celeron, we have Quark. All these processors, if you compare their performance with the cores, you realize that the cores have a higher performance. Now, the higher the core, the higher the performance of a laptop. Now, it is ideally, everybody knows that a Core i7 will perform better than a Core i5 or a Core i3. A Core i5 will perform better than a Core i3. Now, a laptop that is Core i7 and it goes for a cheaper price, actually a lower price if you compare it with another Core i5, and you might be wondering why. So actually, when Intel names their processors, they actually have some digits after the name Core i. For example, you can have a laptop that is Core i7, then after the Core i7 you have 8, then you have 600, and then you have a suffix at the end. So the first uh, the first core i7 actually is the family, then the second one, which is the generation of that laptop, and then we have the range of that laptop. Now, the higher the figure, let's say it is Core i7 8650 U, the 650 actually is the range, and the higher the range, the higher the number, it means the better the performance. Then at the end you have the clock speed, maybe something like 2.7 gigahertz. You can have a 3.2 gigahertz, so it depends with the kind of machine that you've bought. Now, the higher the clock speed, the better the machine. The higher the range, the better the machine. Then the most important thing is the generation. So you can find a laptop is a Core i5, then the generation is 3. So this is the third generation. You can have a Core i7 that then the generation you're going to have something like a 7. So this is the 7th generation. You can have another one that is an 8th generation. So you can have a Core i7 that is the 5th generation, and you can have a Core i5 that is the 8th generation. So you realize that this Core i5 will perform better than the Core i7, and hence the changes in the price. So sometimes you're not supposed to look more closely to the price, but look at the performance of the laptop. Now, we also have a different suffix at the end of these figures. You're going to have a suffix like a HK. You're going to have a suffix like H. You can also have a suffix like a Y. So whenever you have a suffix like a Y, this one is an extremely low performing laptop. You can have a suffix like a H. H is a high performing. You can have a HK. HK is a high performing laptop which has the capacity. It is unlocked, so it means you can increase the clock speed, or you can do anything with it. You can have a laptop that is HQ. Now, what does HQ mean? HQ means that this one is high performing and it's a quad core. which means this one is good for things like gaming, when you have extremely um, big operations that you're going to use in that laptop. So whenever you're buying, you need to buy something that is good. You can have the Y suffix. The Y suffix is extremely low performing. So basically, this one won't help you if you're doing bigger operations. Another thing that you need to consider is basically the Core i5 normally has an advantage because Core i7 or Core i5, some Core i5 and Core i7s, you realize that they have a feature which is called the hyper threading. Hyper threading is something that makes the actually the processor to perform much better. Hyperthreading means you're going to perform a lot of tasks in that laptop without uh, actually using most of its energy. So it clearly means you can multitask. For example, you can do video editing, you can do 3D rendering without a problem. So you realize that uh, laptops with hyper threading features, you realize that they're going to help you so much. So and this one, of course, you're going to go for a very high price. So my advice to you, if you want to buy a new laptop, is the first thing that you need to look at the core, actually, okay, the processor, then look at the generation, look at the range, and then depending on what you want to use, you can get a HQ suffix at the end clearly means this one is good for gaming. uh, H, high performance, of course. If you have a Y, it means this one is not going to help you much on those big actually operations that you're going to do. So sometimes you normally ask yourself a question like why what makes a Core i7 or a Core i5 to perform better than any other processor. Now one thing about Core i7, most of them have a feature that we refer to it as hyper threading. Now hyper threading simply says that this laptop can multitask. You can do a lot of activities at the same time without actually overpowering the performance. Now hyper threading normally enables you to perform a lot of things at the same time, and one of the activities in a laptop that in any machine that's going to need a hyper threading feature is when you're doing video rendering, when you're doing something like graphics, that you are editing something that requires you to use different features of the laptop. You realize that with hyper threading, you realize you're going to have a very perfect performance. So Core i5 normally is good for that. We have Core i5s with hyper threading features, and we have Core i7 which also have that feature. Now you can have these other processors like the Pentium, these other processors which are not the cores, and you'll find that some of them can perform even better. So sometimes I normally advise my customers, if you want to buy a laptop, first ask yourself what you're doing with it. If you know that you're not going to have a lot of activities that require the hyper threading feature, then you don't need to buy a core. You can buy the dual core kind of laptops, which are cheaper and they're best performing. Now my first laptop was a refurbished, and I bought it in 2009, and this laptop is still working up to now, and it is not a core, and I'm telling you the performance is perfect. So sometimes if you buy an expensive laptop, it will be useless, like having something that you're not using. So my advice to you is, first look for what you want to buy, what you want to use for it, and then you're going to use it. Another thing is which kind of machines are good when bought refurbished. I'll advise you a refurbished laptop will help you. A refurbished printer will help you, but don't go for things like TVs. This one would help you at all. The DVDs, they're not good. Now the reason why I'm saying this, things like television normally have a certain life, and you might get something that is working when you buy in the shop, it is perfectly working, but then when you start using it, after some few days, it just dies, it just goes off and doesn't come back again. So my advice is buy laptops are good refurbished, printers are good refurbished, but TV, it's a no-go zone.